What if SpaceX catches a Starship just weeks from now? And what if very soon after that, SpaceX tries something even crazier, catching both stages of Starship on the same flight? This week we have major Starship Flight 14 news. 3 big space companies just reported earnings. Blue Origin has identified what went wrong with New Glenn, and NASA is preparing to launch one of the most powerful space telescopes ever built. But first, we need to talk about the incredible solar eclipse we just witnessed. And before we start, to all my dear viewers, please stay with me until the very end of this episode. Because today I would like to end this week in space a little differently, with something very personal and for me very emotional. But first, let's go to space. On Wednesday, millions of people looked up. The total solar eclipse crossed Greenland, Iceland and northern Spain before ending near the Balearic Islands at sunset. And even across large parts of Europe, the partial eclipse was spectacular. Here in Switzerland we had beautiful clear skies. And if you watched my eclipse video this week, you know that I took my Celestron telescope to Lake Hallwyl. In the end, around 60 or 70 people looked through it. It was honestly one of my favorite astronomy experiences ever. But now the countdown to the next one has already started. August 2nd, 2027. And this eclipse will be an absolute monster. The path of totality will cross southern Spain and North Africa, including Morocco and Egypt. And near Luxor in Egypt, totality will last for more than 6 minutes. So if you miss 2026, 2027 could be the eclipse of a lifetime. Now to SpaceX, because Flight 14 could be one of the most important Starship flights ever. Elon Musk says SpaceX wants to attempt something it has never done before. Catch Starship itself with the launch tower. Not the booster, the ship. After reaching space, Starship would come all the way back to Texas and approach the giant Mechazilla arms. If regulators approve it, SpaceX could attempt this as early as Flight 14. And that brings us to an even crazier question. Could we see a double catch? There has been a lot of discussions about this in the SpaceX community. Some regulatory paperwork appears to leave open the possibility of both stages returning toward the launch site. And eventually, this is exactly what SpaceX wants to do. Catch Super Heavy first, move it out of the way, and roughly one orbit later, or several orbits later, catch Starship with the same tower. But I want to be very clear. I do not expect that on Flight 14. Musk's latest description still has Super Heavy returning to the Gulf of Mexico, while Starship attempts the tower catch. And interestingly, that is also the dominant view in the SpaceX community right now. Many people think SpaceX will first want another clean booster landing demonstration before risking the tower again. So my prediction, Flight 14 ship catch attempt. A later flight, the first double catch. And when that happens, that will be one of the defining moments of reusable spaceflight. When will Flight 14 launch? Timing is still uncertain. Musk said the end of August. There has been discussion around approximately August 28th, but I would treat that as a target, not a confirmed launch date. And September is absolutely possible. The vehicles expected for Flight 14 are Ship 41 and Booster 21. So next week, watch the Starbase testing campaign very closely. Static fires and final integrated testing will tell us much more about whether an end of August launch is realistic. And there is another huge objective. Flight 14 is expected to begin testing the deployment of SpaceX's new Starlink V3 satellites. According to Musk, these satellites could deliver roughly 10 times the broadband capacity of today's generation. So Flight 14 isn't just about catching rockets, it is also about turning Starship into an operational launch system. And what about the Starship from Flight 13? Ship 40 survived its Indian Ocean landing remarkably well. SpaceX vessels reached it and engineers were able to inspect and photograph parts of the ship. But actually, bringing the entire vehicle back has been much harder. The ship drifted hundreds of miles off Western Australia. Rough weather, including strong winds and very large waves, complicated the recovery operation. And Elon Musk has now acknowledged that recovering the complete vehicle may no longer be possible. That sounds disappointing, but scientifically, SpaceX already got something extremely valuable. A close look at a Starship that survived atmospheric re-entry. especially the heat shield. That data could be extremely important for Flight 14. And another crazy Elon Musk story. Remember TeraFab? The proposed semiconductor mega factory in Texas connected to SpaceX and Tesla? The reported initial investment is around $16.8 billion. But the number everybody remembers is this. Musk has suggested the site could eventually become up to 50 times the size of the Pentagon. Think about that. This is no longer simply about building rockets or cars. Musk is increasingly talking about controlling the entire technology stack. Chips, AI, robots, satellites, rockets, and eventually infrastructure in space. If even part of this vision becomes reality, TeraFab could become one of the largest industrial projects in the world. Now let's talk about money. Because this was a huge earnings week for space stocks, starting with Intuitive Machines. The headline numbers initially disappointed Wall Street. Q2 revenue came in at around $206 million. That's massive growth, more than 300% year over year, but still below analysts' expectations. The company also reported an adjusted EBITDA loss of roughly $14 million. But there was one number investors absolutely loved. $1.8 billion. That's Intuitive Machines' record backlog. And management maintained its full-year revenue outlook of approximately $900 million to $1 billion, while still targeting positive adjusted EBITDA. The stock initially dropped hard after the numbers, but then completely reversed. On Friday, shares jumped around 13% after Stifel upgraded the stock to buy. B. Riley also raised its price target to $45. So the market basically said, forget one quarter, look at the backlog. And now the next major catalyst is IM-3. The Nova Sea lander Trinity is targeting the mysterious Rainier Gamma lunar swirl. It will also launch Intuitive Machines' first lunar data relay satellite. The official target remains late 2026, but there is still no exact launch date. Next, Firefly. Firefly remains one of the most interesting companies in the new space sector because it isn't just building rockets. It now has launch spacecraft, defense technology, and lunar infrastructure. The big catalyst for me remains Blue Ghost Mission 2. And unfortunately, we still don't have an exact launch day. Firefly officially says no earlier than late 2026. The mission is much more ambitious than Blue Ghost 1. Blue Ghost will attempt to land on the far side of the moon. Firefly's Elytra spacecraft will remain in lunar orbit and act as a communications relay. And ESA's Lunar Pathfinder will also be deployed. So this is becoming more than another lunar lander. Firefly is beginning to build actually lunar infrastructure. That's why I'm watching this mission extremely closely. And then Rocket Lab. Financially, this was actually a very strong quarter. Q2 revenue reached a record $234 million, up around 62% year over year. Backlog increased dramatically to around $2.36 billion. And Rocket Lab guided Q3 revenue to between $250 and $265 million. But investors focused on one sentence: Neutron may slip. Peter Beck said the window for launching Neutron before the end of 2026 is narrowing. The current plan is to bring the first Neutron vehicle to the launch pad during Q4. But that makes an actual launch this year increasingly difficult. And the stock reacted negatively. For me, however, the important question isn't whether Neutron flies in December or early 2027. The important question is, does Neutron work? Because if Rocket Lab can successfully enter the reusable medium lift market, the company enters a completely different league. Now quickly to Blue Origin. We finally know much more about the recent New Glenn accident. Blue Origin says the problem was traced to the main oxygen valve of one of the BE-4 engines. The good news, the company believes the fix requires relatively minor modifications. The bad news, the explosion caused significant damage to the launch infrastructure. Blue Origin is now working toward returning New Glenn to flight before the end of 2026. So this is becoming another major race to watch. Starship Flight 14, Neutron and New Glenn's return to flight. 3 completely different reusable rockets, 3 completely different companies, and enormous implications for the space economy. And finally, one of the launches I am most excited about this year, NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. NASA has now officially scheduled launch for August 30th. And here's the crazy part. Roman is launching around 9 months ahead of schedule. When do you ever hear that in the new space industry? Roman will launch aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy from Kennedy Space Center. Its primer mirror is about the same size as Hubble's, 2.4 meters. But Roman can observe an area of the sky roughly 100 times larger than Hubble in a single image. Its mission? Dark matter, dark energy, exoplanets, black holes, and some of the biggest questions in modern cosmology. Roman will travel to the Sun-Earth L2 point, the same general region of space used by the James Webb Space Telescope. This mission deserves much more than 30 seconds. So shortly before launch, I will release a full Alex SpaceX Talks video about the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. What it can do, why astronomers are so excited, and why Roman could completely change our picture of the universe. Stay tuned for that. So what should we watch next week? For me, number one is obvious. Starbase, Ship 41, Booster 21, static fires, regulatory approvals, and any indication that SpaceX really believes Flight 14 could launch before the end of August. Number two, watch for updates on IM-3 and Blue Ghost 2 mission. Both could become major lunar missions later this year. And number three, the countdown to Roman. We are now only about 2 weeks away from one of NASA's most important astrophysics launches in years. And then August could end with something incredible. A Falcon Heavy launching Roman into deep space. And potentially within days of that, a Starship trying to fly back to Starbase and get caught out of the sky. This is why I love covering space right now. Things that sounded impossible just a few years ago are becoming actual launch objectives. One last thing. Before I go, I promised you at the beginning that I wanted to share something personal with you. And this is not about space, it's about life. Sometimes happiness and pain live incredibly close together. On Wednesday evening, I experienced the solar eclipse together with my family. It was an incredible night. The sky was beautiful, my kids were there. Dozens of complete strangers came to look through my telescope. People were talking, laughing, and looking up at the sky together. I enjoyed every single minute of it. And then, less than 24 hours later, everything changed. On Thursday afternoon, I received a phone call from our veterinarian. He told me that a woman had just brought in our cat, Bijou. She had been hit by a car just in front of our house. She died instantly. The woman had found her, picked her up and brought her to the veterinarian. And that phone call, that was a tough one. Bijou had been with us for 10 years. And yes, she was just a cat. But anyone who has ever truly loved an animal probably knows. They are never just a cat. She was part of my family. She was part of my everyday life. And especially during the Corona years, I honestly don't know how many client calls she attended with me. She was sitting next to me, walking across my desk, sometimes probably wondering why I was talking to a computer all day. And after listening to hundreds of those calls, she probably knew more about the products I sell at Swisscom than I do. That was Bijou, and suddenly she isn't here anymore. Next week we will bring her urn back home, and that's where she will stay with us. So why am I telling you this on a channel about space? Because this week reminded me of something incredibly simple. We spent so much time looking forward to the next launch, the next Starship flight, the next eclipse, the next goal, the next big thing. And that's great, but life is happening right now. This week taught me once again that life is short, life is precious, and we simply don't know how much time we have. So here's my message to you. Seize the moments, enjoy them. Whether it's standing under a solar eclipse, talking to a complete stranger, spending time with your friends, hugging your children, being with the people you love, or simply sitting on your sofa, stroking your cat. Because sometimes the moments that seem completely ordinary today are the moments we would give anything to experience one more time tomorrow. So enjoy them, every single one. This episode is for you, Bijou. Thank you for 10 wonderful years. And to all of you watching, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people and the animals you love. Enjoy this incredible little journey we call life. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care.